Today's video is just for a little bit of fun. Imagine if you could only have 5 items to sew a garment with. 5 total. What would they be? Well, I think my answers might just surprise you. Welcome back, my sewing friends. It is always lovely to have you here. If you are just new here, welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood and I'm the creator of VintageSewingSchool.com, and here on this channel we talk everything about helpful sewing hints to help our garment sewing, to make garments. So if you haven't already yet, double check that you are subscribed so that you get to see all of these videos, because today's is quite fun. I was posed with this question that I thought, imagine like it's a desert island situation, okay? But let's make this a little bit more fun. Rather than a desert island, let's say that we are all going on a cruise to a tropical island together, a sewing cruise. How fun, right? And you can only take 5 items with you to sew with. 5, I know. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my 5 items and I want to hear yours at the end. Now, I've made plenty of other videos about sewing tools and equipment before, and I've linked them all down below, but this is like only 5 items to make a garment. What would I choose? And of course, why? To see what is the most important tools in my sewing routine, my repertoire. So let's have a few rules here first. That one, what's already included that we don't have to include in our list? Well, we will be provided with fabric, because you can't sew a garment without fabric. We all need that. Thread, again, we all need that to make a garment. And a pattern. So a pattern not to your size or anything, it's just a standard stock size pattern out of the envelope pattern. So you'll notice there is no sewing machine included here because you could hand sew or use a sewing machine. So there's options there. I know a lot of you are into hand sewing, so that is not included. So just those 3 things. So fabric, thread, and a pattern, but just a standard size, not tweaked pattern is included. What else? What other 5 things would you choose, or me, to sew with, to make the garment? Here's mine. Let's get the first obvious one out of the way. What will I actually sew with? Yes, you guessed it. I'm going to pick my sewing machine. I'm not going to hand sew seams. I like hand sewing finishings, but I don't like hand sewing seams, so I'm taking my regular sewing machine with me as my first item. Now it gets a little bit more interesting. My second item, Tailor's chalk. Yes, so I would use this to trace out my pattern pieces and marking and notches and all of the things that I need. So I would definitely choose Tailor's chalk. I need something to mark my patterns with. And so my next one comes sort of in line with it, is a tape measure. So with the tape measure, what I would use these together is I would use this to, one, trace out my pattern, but I would also make sure that I have my tape measure is very important to me, because I would measure the pattern. I would measure myself, I would measure the pattern pieces and figure out what tweaks I needed to do to the pattern that I thought ahead of time to make it fit me correctly. And so I would be able to then measure and mark out straight onto the fabric. I would trace out with my Tailor's chalk the changes that I thought that I would need for that particular pattern by measuring, and trace out the pattern to fit me, so to say, as best as I could guess anyway, doing it first time, first up, use my best guess. So these are the 2 that I would sort of come in line with, together. And obviously my tape measure is essential for the measuring part, and later on in the sewing, if I needed to measure anything as well, this is what I would choose. The next item I would take in my suitcase on the sewing cruise would be my shears. So obviously we need to cut out the fabric and pattern somehow, and it would hurt me so much to have to cut the pattern out with the shears, my fabric shears. But We're 5 items only, and this is what I would choose. So I would take my shears, I would cut out obviously my pattern, my proper fabric with this. I would cut all my notches, I would trim, I would cut all my little loose threads. I would just use this one pair to cut everything, but I would choose my fabric shears for that purpose. And so the next item, I had a really hard time choosing my last one. There's actually 2 that I would really choose. So actually I would choose 6, but I'm choosing 5. So there's one more, but I will tell you what my other one would be from that. And the 5th item that I would choose is, I would take my iron. Yeah, absolutely. I would take my iron with me because I know any sewing that I do is going to look 100,000 times better if I'm able to iron and press it than without. So even, you'll notice in a minute what my other option is and why it's going to be important to press and make it all look really, really nice. I know that will make a really nice garment if I have my iron to be able to press everything as I go. Will make a huge difference to the end garment, even if I've had to fudge it together with minimal equipment. Now, the thing that I really want to take with me, but that was only 5, so I guess I couldn't. But if I had one more, say I could stow away and stash it and hide it somewhere to bring on the sewing cruise with me, that would be my pins. Yeah, absolutely. So I know it was really tough between the iron and the pins because pinning things in place to sew and put everything down. But I decided if I had to choose between them, the iron would be first because it would make the garment looks so much nicer being pressed. Pins, even though I would like, if I had to choose, I would just choose one pin. One would be enough just to hold one area in place here and there, like notches together and things like this, depending on the garment. But just even one pin would be helpful, but the next one would be all of my pins to hold in place. But I would sew without pins. I would rather have an iron than pins to sew with. So that was my 5, if not sort of actually the 6th one that I would stow away, but that was my top 5 items that I think that I could construct a garment with, and then the 6 I would be really happy with, the 5 I'd have to make do with. It was really, really tough choice, so tough. I would love to hear your answers to this. I think it will be so fun. Just a community fun topic to talk about. So the same rules apply. You're provided with fabric, thread, and a pattern. What other 5 items are you taking on our sewing cruise that you can only pick 5 items to make a garment with? What are yours? Leave a comment below. I cannot wait to actually read through them. I think it will be so interesting to hear everybody's answers. So thank you so very much for watching. Check the description box below for other more useful sewing tools videos. Otherwise, happy sewing. Bye.